Picture this. You're sitting in your chair after dinner and your leg starts to feel heavy, tight, maybe a little warm. Most people ignore it. They think it's just tiredness. But sometimes, and this is important, that feeling is your body trying to warn you about something serious happening deep inside your veins. Today I'm going to talk about something that affects millions of people over 60, something most doctors don't spend more than 5 minutes explaining to you. And I'm going to show you a simple $4 remedy that communities in rural Pennsylvania have been using for generations, long before there were pharmacies on every corner. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share might genuinely change how you think about your blood, your circulation. That's the way blood moves through your body, and your health. Let's start with the basics, because you deserve to actually understand what's happening inside you. Your blood is constantly moving. Right now, as you watch this, your heart is pumping blood through thousands of miles of vessels. Those are the tubes, the pipes, that carry blood all over your body. Most of the time, this works perfectly. But sometimes, in certain spots, the blood slows down. It starts to pool. And when it pools, it can begin to clump together and harden into what's called a thrombus. Most people just call it a blood clot. A blood clot is basically a small blockage. Think of it like a traffic jam forming inside a pipe. For a while, things keep moving around it. But if it grows, or if it breaks loose and travels somewhere it shouldn't, like your lungs or your heart, that's when it becomes a medical emergency. Now here's what most people don't realize. You don't have to have heart disease to get a blood clot. You don't have to be sick. In fact, one of the biggest risk factors is simply sitting still for too long. Long car rides, spending a lot of time in a recliner, even sleeping in an uncomfortable position. The older we get, the more our circulation, again, that's blood flow, slows down naturally. That's just biology. But it means people over 60 need to be more aware of this than anyone. So what did people do before blood thinners? Those are medications that prevent clots from forming. Before those medications existed, they used what they had. And in Amish communities, scattered across Ohio, Indiana, and Pennsylvania, they had something most of us walk right past in the grocery store without a second thought: apple cider vinegar. Now before you roll your eyes, hear me out, because the science behind this is actually fascinating. And it's been getting serious attention from researchers in the last decade. Apple cider vinegar is made by fermenting crushed apples. During that fermentation process, that's when the apple juice breaks down and transforms. It develops something called acetic acid. That's the sharp, tangy compound that gives vinegar its smell and taste. But it also develops something even more interesting. It develops natural enzymes. Enzymes are tiny little workers inside a liquid. Each one has a specific job, and some of the enzymes in raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar, the kind with what's called the mother, that cloudy, stringy stuff floating at the bottom, those enzymes are believed to help break down fibrin. Fibrin, that's the sticky protein your body uses to build clots. It's like the glue that holds a clot together. So if something can target fibrin and break it down, it essentially starts dissolving the blockage from the inside out. Now let me be completely straight with you here, because I respect your intelligence. Apple cider vinegar is not a prescription drug. It is not a replacement for your doctor. If you suspect you have a serious blood clot, if you have sudden chest pain, trouble breathing, or one leg is significantly more swollen than the other, you call emergency services immediately. Full stop. No remedy at home replaces that. But what we're talking about today is support, prevention, the kind of daily habit that works quietly in the background, keeping your blood flowing more freely, reducing inflammation, that swelling and irritation inside your vessels, and supporting your body's own natural ability to clean itself out. And that's where the Amish recipe comes in. The traditional Amish remedy that's been passed down through generations is strikingly simple. 4 ingredients, $4 give or take, depending on where you live. 2 tablespoons of raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar, 1 tablespoon of raw honey. And raw matters here because processed honey loses most of its beneficial properties. Half a teaspoon of ground turmeric. That's the bright orange-yellow spice, the one that stains everything it touches. And a small pinch of black pepper. You mix all of this into a glass of warm water. Not hot. Hot water can break down some of the enzymes. Warm, like a comforting tea, and you drink it first thing in the morning, before you eat anything. That's it. That's the recipe that communities with famously low rates of cardiovascular disease, that means heart and blood vessel problems, have been using for over 100 years. Now let's talk about why each ingredient matters, because this isn't just folk wisdom thrown together randomly. There's a real logic here. The apple cider vinegar, as I mentioned, contains acetic acid and natural enzymes that may help break down fibrin, the clot-building protein. But it does something else too. It helps balance what's called your blood's pH level. That's basically how acidic or alkaline your blood is. When your blood is too acidic, which can happen from diet, stress, even poor sleep, it becomes slightly thicker, slightly stickier, more likely to clot. Apple cider vinegar, despite tasting acidic, actually has an alkalizing effect once it's inside your body. It helps thin things out, gently. The raw honey is there partly for taste. Let's be honest, plain vinegar water is not pleasant, but it also brings its own benefits. Raw honey contains natural antioxidants. Those are compounds that fight oxidative stress. That's essentially rust on the inside of your body, damage caused by unstable molecules over time. That kind of internal rust contributes to hardened, narrowed arteries. Those are the large vessels that carry blood away from your heart. Honey helps slow that process down. Then there's turmeric. This is where things get really interesting. Turmeric contains a compound called curcumin. Curcumin is one of the most researched natural anti-inflammatory substances on the planet. Inflammation, that's your body's internal swelling and irritation response, is a massive driver of clot formation. When your vessels are inflamed, they're more likely to trigger clotting. Studies have shown that curcumin can actually interfere with platelet aggregation. That's when blood cells start sticking together to form a clot. It essentially tells your blood cells to calm down and stop clumping. And the black pepper? That's not just flavor. Black pepper contains a compound called piperine. Piperine does one specific critical job. It makes curcumin up to 2,000% more absorbable by your body. Without it, most of the turmeric passes right through you without doing much at all. That tiny pinch of black pepper is what activates the whole thing. Now here's something that will surprise you. The Amish didn't know any of this science. They didn't know about curcumin, piperine, or acetic acid. They just knew that the people who drank this every morning felt better, lived longer, had fewer of the swollen, painful legs that plagued other communities. They passed it down the way all good knowledge gets passed down, from parent to child, from grandmother to grandchild, generation after generation, without needing a study to validate what they could see with their own eyes. Science is just now catching up to what they already knew. Let's talk about who this is especially useful for. If you're over 60, your circulation is naturally slower than it was at 40. That's not a disease, it's just aging. But it does mean your blood spends more time sitting in your veins, especially in your lower legs and feet. That's why so many people in their 60s and 70s notice swelling in the ankles by the end of the day. That's called edema. That's just fluid buildup from poor circulation. It's uncomfortable, and it's also a sign that your blood isn't moving as efficiently as it should. If you sit for long periods, whether that's watching TV, reading, or just resting, you're at higher risk. If you've had any kind of surgery recently, your risk goes up. If you take certain medications that affect your blood, definitely talk to your doctor before adding this to your routine. And if you have a family history of deep vein thrombosis, those are clots that form in the deep veins, usually in the legs. This kind of daily support is worth taking seriously. Let me also address something you might be thinking right now. If this works, why doesn't my doctor tell me about it? That's a fair question. And the honest answer is, your doctor is trained to treat disease, not to manage wellness with kitchen ingredients. The medical system, as good as it is is built around diagnosing problems and prescribing treatments. There's very little room and very little financial incentive for a doctor to spend 20 minutes talking about apple cider vinegar. That doesn't mean it doesn't work. It just means it exists in a different lane. This isn't medicine competing with your doctor. This is you taking ownership of your daily health, filling in the gaps that a 10-minute appointment can't cover. A few practical things to know before you start. Always dilute the apple cider vinegar in water. Drinking it straight can damage the enamel on your teeth. That's the hard protective coating, and it can irritate your throat and esophagus, which is the tube that connects your mouth to your stomach. Use a straw if you can. It keeps the liquid away from your teeth. Give it at least 3 to 4 weeks before you judge whether it's working. This isn't a one-dose miracle. It's a daily habit that builds up over time, like exercise. The benefits are cumulative, meaning they stack up gradually.